everybody. How you doing? Yeah, I've been from all day, but we're here. Drew Sutherland, my partner in East Coast Horror Group. We're happy to host the panel for Mr. Corey Feldman.
Nobody tested these first. Hi everyone! How's everybody doing today? Awesome! Wonderful. This is Angel Courtney. Everyone say hi, Angel Courtney.
Hi, Angel Courtney. Hi, everybody.
I had to bring an angel with me because, you know, I figure I got an angel and a devil on my shoulder now. Hey! That's the way it should be.
So, Corey, let's take a look back at your career. What's one of your favorite films?
Where'd it go? Oh. Sorry.
Which one of your favorite films that you, maybe one or two favorite that you've done in your career?
You mean that I like watching or that I enjoyed making?
Let's go both.
Okay. My favorite film to make was definitely The Goonies. Well, you've heard of it. It's a good one. It's a good one. Have you seen it? Yeah? It's pretty good. But it was even more fun to make, because, I mean, come on. You know, being a bunch of kids running around on sets with pirate ships and water slides and all the great guests we had there, you know, from Pee Wee Herman, he was on the set. Indiana Jones, he was on the set. So that was kind of cool. I mean, he wasn't like dressed up in his indie gear or anything, but you know who I'm talking about, Harrison Ford? Yeah. I'm just joking. Where does he know? He actually injured himself. Did you guys hear? Yeah. I know, because we're at a con, so of course you would have heard. But anyway, he plays Han Solo in Star Wars. Same guy, crazy, right? You would have never known that if I didn't tell you. If you check the IMDb credits, you will find that I am right. Anyway, yeah, so we had really cool guests. Cyndi Lauper, of course, you know, we ended up making a video with her to show everybody that she was really there. And Michael Jackson. Yes. You know who he is. He's a famous black kid who grew up and became white. But anyway, so yeah, it was fun. Oh, and then to watch, my favorite film to watch is a little-known film called The Birthday, which most people, has anybody seen The Birthday? Not one of you. Look at that, I'm so disappointed I have to leave now, goodbye. I'm just joking. No, the reason why you haven't seen it is because it is my most obtuse, rare, out there, kind of very unique, different, and so strange that it's part of its eccentricity and the oddity of the film itself, and the fact that you just can't find it because it was never released theatrically or otherwise in the United States. It has played in the United States only in the festival circuit, only for like select engagements. And yeah, it's never had any kind of release here. But if you're a hardcore fan, if you're a hardcore fan, and you want to see this movie, then I suggest that you go to Amazon.ne, which is the German version of Amazon.com, and they actually do sell the film there on DVD, and they have an English version. Now, the only problem is I believe that it's only in PAL format, which means you have to have a region-free player to be able to actually watch the film. That said, I think there's like clips or whatever on IMDb, but I mean not IMDb, YouTube. But that is definitely my proudest achievement as an actor. If you watch the film, you'll understand what I mean. But it is very unique. It's very artistic, and the reason I love it so much is because it was the biggest departure from self. So I completely became this character, which is so far from who I am. It's just completely removed from me as a person. And it's a very interesting ride cinematically because it is the first film that has ever done this technique, which is the film is shot in real time, which means from the moment that the movie opens to the moment that the movie ends, it is a continuous thread, much like my Ascension Millennium video, which, she started. But anyway, so there is, it was like it starts at the beginning and it goes all the way through and it never cuts. And that was exactly what we did with The Birthday, except it's much more complicated and intricate because it's a big giant production. But there were cuts in it. It's not like one shot all the way through, but it is one continuous movement as far as the film's timeline. And I, as the main character, am in every single shot of the film. And that has never been done before. So even if it's not like a close-up of me, or my face, you might see my foot, or you might see my hand, or you might see my shoulder, just a piece of me going to the next person over the shoulder, or, a master shot or whatever, but the point being that I am literally in every single shot of the film. So it is a very, very artistic and different endeavor, and I strongly encourage you guys to try and get a chance to see it if you can. Also, side note, the director of the film, his name is Eugenio Mera, and is heralded as, kind of the next Quentin Tarantino of Spain, if you will. And that's kind of how they see him in that part of the world. But he's also finally made his breakthrough to America, and he just had a very successful film out called Grand Piano. Has anybody seen that film? Grand Piano. Yeah, beautiful film, right? Incredible, brilliant. Anyway, starred Elijah Wood from Lord of the Rings fame, and he's brilliant in it, and it's a brilliant film, so I encourage you to see that. And if you like Grand Piano, you will love The Birthday, because that's kind of the tour de force that started it all. There you go, I'm done. Yeah.
Great. Big horror convention.
And that's why they call me Mouth, by the way.
Being a horror convention, you were obviously in...
What did you call me? No, Sadie, just slow it down now, buddy. Slow it down. I am not a horror. And I don't need an intervention.
Of course, we've all gathered actually together.
Thank you. Okay, fine, guys. All right, I'm giving it up.
Okay, guys. So, being in front of the 13th, this is a horror convention. You work with another guest here, Tom. Talk about your experience there, your memories on sets, and just what your experience was working on the final chapter.
Final chapter. Well, I was a little kid, so I was very young, because that's what little kids, they're very young, usually. And I was scared. Yeah. Would you be?
Just being in the business and being in some of the films, you'd be kind of blasé to it.
No, you know what, to be honest, I mean, has anybody seen the Friday the 13th documentary? Memories of Crystal Lake. Did you guys see that? Yeah. Okay. So you know the story, but for those of you who don't know the story, there was actually a moment, I mean, for the most part, just making a movie, I got it. It was, fake blood, Jason, whatever. But there was the one moment where he comes and he attacks me through the window. Do you guys know the story?
Yep.
Some of you? Okay, I'll tell it for those of you who don't. So basically, there was one moment in the film where it was done kind of like we were just talking about, where it's like one continuous shot. I mean, obviously not the whole film, but there was like a good 5-minute section where it was one continuous shot. And they wanted to get, the honest reactions. And the thing that made this shot particularly unique is there was multiple stunts within that, shot. So the one part of it was they threw one of the lead characters, his name is Rob, and they threw Rob through the window. It was his dead body, which of course was not really a dead body, it was a stuntman. So they threw a stuntman through the window on a kind of jet-propelled springboard, which kind of just shot him through the air, and then he broke through the window. And then what happened is he crashes down into the middle of the living room, and it's me and my sister, played by Kimberly Beck, and the way the director explained it is like, okay, so this guy's going to smash through the window, and then when you see him smash through the window, you guys are obviously horrified. You're going to back up into your next mark, and then you're going to hold for 3 seconds while we reset. And then you're going to count 1, 2, 3. And then after 3, Ted White, who plays Jason, is going to come smashing through the window behind you, and he's going to pick you straight up into the air. At that point, Kimberly Beck has got to take the hammer and start pelting him on the hammer, and then she takes it and she sticks it into his shoulder blade. So that's actually 3 gimmicks, 3 stunts in one continuous shot, which is very rare that they would do so much in one shot. So anyway, the director says, okay, so this is what we're going to do. So, you know, first you guys are going to be at the first mark, and then you're going to be talking, and then all of a sudden you're going to get surprised because the body's going to come flying through the window, and then you're going to go to your second mark, and I want you to count 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. And on 3 1,000, all of a sudden that's when Jason's going to come, you know, grab you from behind and lift you straight up into the air. Now, if something goes wrong, and this is what they often tell you, is, you know, if they're trying to do multiple things, or if there's a big stunt and the scene continues with dialogue or action after the stunt, they'll say, okay, we want you to hold. Or a lot of times also, if it's action before the stunt, then they'll say, okay, we're going to do all the action up until the stunt, and then, you know, if anything goes wrong, we'll say cut, because we don't want to have to do the stunt more than 1 time or 2 times if we have to, because it's very expensive, because you have to build a new window, and you have to change all the clothes, and you have to dry up the blood, and, you know, it's a lot to do. So they'll say, okay, cut it right before the stunt, or cut it right after the stunt. So they say, what you're going to do is you're going to smash them through the window, and then right afterwards, you're going to back into your position, and you count to 3, but during that 3 that you're counting, we may cut. Because if something went wrong with the original stunt, then we're going to cut right there so that you know that we're resetting and we're going to do it over before we break another window. I said, okay, so what I want you to do is you go back to your position, you count to 3, and then if you don't hear cut, then you're going to continue the scene. But if you know, get to 3 and you haven't heard me, the chances are we're going to cut, and then you should probably just relax and, you know, we'll get ready, we'll reset or whatever. I said, okay, great. So the guy smashes through the window, I go back to my second mark, I count 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, and nothing. It was just silent. And I'm like, okay, I guess something got messed up. So I'm like waiting, like when's it gonna goes to the time for lunch, can I start taking off my makeup now? And then all of a sudden, boom! Jason comes and smashes through the window and lifts me straight up into the air. So the shot that you see that is actually the one in the film, and you see that look of sheer terror and horror on my face, that was not acting. That is 100% legit. Because, I mean, imagine you're an 11-year-old small child, and, you know, a big guy like Ted White lifts you up straight into the air, and he's about 6'5", you know, and then he puts you up to the top, so you're up at about 7 feet. And you're like, okay, this is legit, I'm scared. So I actually was so terrified from that one shot that I remember I was actually like in hysterics, like crying and freaking out for like, I don't know, I think a good couple hours. Like they couldn't get me to go back to work for a while after that one. So yes, it was scary. Yeah.
So working with, you know, the likes of Sean Astin, Kiefer, Sutherland, Tom Hanks, who was one of your favorites to work with?
Angel Courtney. She was the best. So easy to work with. I mean, seriously, like no attitude. She's like so cool. No, I'm joking. No, she was good to work with, but that's a whole separate issue. I couldn't say really. I would say out of anybody, my favorite to work with had to be Corey Haim. That's why we did so many movies together, you know what I mean? Like, obviously the studio system, you know, they thought it was like really cool to like have the 2 Coreys, and it was all kind of a, you know, pre-bought, packaged little, you know, idea that they came up with that they wanted to sell to the world. But we weren't aware of that, you know what I mean? For us, we were just 2 kids who were just doing our job, and oh, well, here's this guy again, you know, okay, cool. Oh, okay, well, we happen to have the same name. All right, cool. You know, and that was really it. But we really got along. And so on Lost Boys, before the movie started, you know, Corey called me and he was like, hey, man, you know, we're going to be doing this movie together. And I was like, who is this kid and how did he get my number? You know? But he was really super nice. He was really sweet. And, you know, we got along really well right off the bat. We, like, you know, met at the beach. We went and started playing football and just kind of throwing the ball around. And getting to know each other, and we ended up going back to his apartment where he was staying, and we just bonded. So every time I got that call and I knew that I was going to be doing a movie with him, you know, I was excited because I knew that number one, I would have my friend there, and then number two, that it would be incredible because I knew that our chemistry together, the way we worked together, was just so instantaneous. We could just like read each other's thoughts. We knew where we were going with it. It's like, you know, being part of like a comedy improv group where you just know what the person is going to say next, and that's your whole job, is to kind of play off of those reactions. So him and I just had this kind of synergy where we could do that really easily. But that said, I love Sean, and I loved working with him, although it was a long time ago, so it's hard to remember kind of the details of it. I know that we did argue a fair amount, but that's of course because we were kids, and you know, everybody wants to be right when you're kids. But aside from that, we all got along. There was a great cast on The Goonies, great cast on Stand By Me. You know, so all those movies I did as a kid, I think I stayed friends with everybody, except for Martha Plimpton, but everybody but Martha Plimpton I stayed friends with for my entire adult career.
So the rumor mill has finally made its way to what you're doing is about either a remake or a sequel. Do you know anything about it?
Definitely won't be a remake. I can tell you that right now.
That's
Definitely not a remake. No way would that happen. Not while Spielberg is still alive. Or Donner, you know, they won't let that happen. But, will there be a sequel? What do you guys think?
Yes! Do it!
With that kind of enthusiasm, I can't see why they wouldn't. Yeah. That's why they call it Days of the Dead, right? Do you guys want to see Goonies 2 or what? Okay. Alright. Well, that might convince him. I'm going to call Steven right now and I'm going to tell him that I just heard from you guys. No, you know, it's the number one question that I am asked. And I want to personally thank Richard Donner for throwing it out there, because it's like throwing us all under the bus. Like, oh yeah, dude, we're gonna do the sequel. It's gonna be awesome. Go talk to the kids about it. You know, and then we're all sitting here like holding the bag. Like, really, dude? Really? We got no answers. We got nothing. Yeah. So we're waiting for a script. Is where that's at. But you know, hopefully, it'll come in and it'll be amazing. The thing is, I can tell you right now that none of us, myself included, Sean included, none of us want to do it if it's not going to live up to the magic and the amazing wonderment that the first movie captured. Because there was such a unique innocence and magic. And you know the thing that I think really worked? I mean, number one, of course, the topic, the theme of it, which is, you know, it's about family, and it's about, you know, the fact that we all are trying to do something positive to like, to save the people that we care about, to be able to stay with our friends. Like, it's something that everybody can relate to. You know, we all know what it's like to be in trouble financially and have that fear that you're going to lose everything that's valued to you and everything that's sacred to you, and the fact that you're going to be taken away from your friends. So there's like all those relatable topics. But the thing that really made the movie work, in my estimation, is the fact that it actually could happen. You know, every part of that movie has got the believability factor, right? It's like, yes, we're kind of going on this kind of larger than life adventure, and yeah, it's such a stretch to imagine that these things could really happen, but the thing is, they really could happen. There's nothing in that movie that suspends the disbelief to the point that it's not in any way possible. And most movies these days, you just can't say that about. But this movie in particular, yes. So my bet is that if we were going to make a sequel, it would have to have that same virtuous and organic quality that made it relatable and believable and possible as a viable option that this could actually go down. And so I think there's that, coupled with the fact that, of course, everybody wants to see the original cast. So I think a lot of it is going to come down to, you know, are they going to write it in a way that it's more than just, you know, a bunch of new kids and, you know, here's the old guys popping in for a cameo. I think that would probably piss people off more than it would, you know, endear them to the project. I think in this day and age, with all the remakes that we've seen and all the, the cheesy sequels where, you get the main star come in for 30 seconds or something, or, even 5 minutes, it's just not enough. I know when I watch a sequel to one of my favorite movies, I want to see that cast back, that director back, and I want to watch, exactly what has happened to these characters in their lives and where they are today. That's what's fascinating, that's what's captivating. So I know for myself, if I'm involved in any way creatively, I will do everything I can to make sure of it. And I know that, Steven is no fool, Richard Donner, these guys are geniuses, they know what they're doing. So I have ultimate faith and trust that if they're involved, they're going to make it right. The other thing is that they also, from what I've heard, they have Chris Columbus back on board as well to help write the screenplay. So I do know that they've got that Steven Spielberg is writing the story, and Christopher Columbus is on board to help write the script. So if you've got the dream team of Columbus, Spielberg, and Donner all working on the creative, I'm pretty sure it's going to be something to behold. But that said, we still haven't seen the script, so we've been down this road before. I can't say it's ever gotten this close before, but we've been down the rabbit hole. So let's just see if we can actually pull through this time. But all the positive energy, all the well wishes, all of that is definitely welcomed and definitely necessary, because we want them to hear us loud and clear. When Time Magazine, which reported last month that the sequel was going to happen, says it's one of the most important sequels in the history of cinema, that's a pretty big statement. So, I think they feel the love, right? Right? Yeah. Right?
So The Lost Boys is on the top of everyone's must-watch horror film. You always hear about The Lost Boys. Now, for all the vampire films that have come and gone, what do you think made this film stand the test of time?
Because it didn't have Jim Carrey in it. Did anybody see that awful? Yes. Awful, right? Oh my God. Just think, what if that was Lost Boys? We would not be having this conversation together. And thank God that Jim Carrey found another career and didn't try to stay with the horror genre, because probably wouldn't have worked out so well. But that said, there were some other great horror. You know what my favorite was? When I was a kid, I loved, speaking of vampire comedies, remember with George Hamilton?
Love at First Bite.
Oh my God, that was the best. I loved it. What was the name of that movie?
Love at First Bite.
Love at First Bite. Yes, good job. Great movie. Loved it. So there's some good ones, but there's also some stinkers.
So what makes Lost Boys stand?
Oh, I don't know. You tell me.
Everyone wants to hear your thought. Talk about working on the film.
What do you want to know?
Question, Corey. Just the idea of working with Corey again, working with some fine actors, Kiefer, Sutherland, just the cast around it, and what was the vibe going into it, knowing that you're going to make something that's been almost done a lot, that you're wanting to try to make it different?
Well, the process for me was that it started with Richard Donner, because, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but Richard Donner was the executive producer of Lost Boys. So the same guy that directed Goonies was now executive producing Lost Boys. And he called me up and he said, we want to make a movie that's going to be like, it's going to be like Goonies, but with vampires and rock and roll. And that was kind of the original concept. It was like, they wanted to make kind of like another kind of Goonies vibe, but with, kind of on the darker side. And that was the original intention, and then, somewhere along the way, Richard Donner ended up backing out as the director and decided that he was going to kind of take the back seat. He was going to executive produce and allow Joel Schumacher to take over as the director's seat. So when I originally met about doing it, the original intention was to talk about, Lost Boys and being part of Lost Boys as this kind of Goonie action-adventure family film. And then as it went on and Donner kind of took the back seat and Joel Schumacher became the foreground of it, it got much more sinister. And Joel wanted, all the characters to be really rough and tough, except for Corey Haim's character, which, he kind of got the free pass and just be, cute and bubbly and do your thing. But for everybody else, it was like, and especially for me, I had to prove that I could make that transition from being kind of the sweet kid to like hardcore action dude. And I was young, so it was kind of a big jump to make. And so what he did is he said, look, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go out and I want you to grow your hair long and, kind of study. And I want you to get a bunch of the films like Chuck Norris and Sylvester Stallone, all the different action heroes, and I want you to study all of those films and look at all those characters and study those characters, and out of that, I want you to create the perfect action hero. I want you to basically blend the best elements of all those characters and then create something unique and come back and bring it to me, in 6 months or whatever. So he gave me enough time for my hair to grow, so I didn't have to use extensions. And I was actually probably the only one in the cast that wasn't using extensions, as a matter of fact. So anyway, so I came back 6 months later and I read for him as Edgar Frog, and he was like, okay, can we get a real actor in here, please, next time? Because this guy sucks, he's terrible. No, I'm joking. So they mixed and matched, and they tried me with different actors, and eventually they came across Jameson Newlander, and Jameson was great, perfect for Alan Frog, and the rest was history. So there you go. That's how it happened.
Very cool. So I've read that your experience on Bordello Blood has shaped you in the way how cool you are with the bands nowadays. So why don't you tell us about some of your experiences on Bordello Blood and the experience in particular?
What are you referring to?
Your interactions with Dennis Miller. And
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't like to talk bad about anyone, but yeah, he wasn't super friendly. We could say that.
I mean, we've all had, being convention goers, had that experience, and that just shows.
With Dennis Miller?
Dennis Miller was a board convention.
Has everybody here met Dennis Miller?
Yeah.
Here, are there a lot of Republicans in the room? I guess not. Okay. If you are, then you would probably be a big fan of his, because he is very hardcore about his politics, and his politics, personally, I think kind of sucks, but hey, yeah, that's me. But not to say whether it's Republican or Democrat or any of that stuff, I don't really care, but whenever you try to push your agenda onto people, or tell them that their way is wrong, or things like that, that can be a bit much. And so I think for him, I think he's just a little bit too heady, I guess. Maybe that's the best way to put it. Takes himself too seriously, especially for a comedian. Comedians are supposed to be lighthearted. But anyway, yeah, wasn't the greatest experience. But that said, Gilbert Adler directed the film. He did a great job. I actually really like the film. I think it's actually really funny. And I think that Dennis did, an okay job too, and no hard feelings. And Angie Everhart was great, and Erica Laniak, and so there was, and Phil, Fondigo, I think is how you pronounce it. But anyway, he was great. I mean, just great cast of people. Whoopi Goldberg was even in the film. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I loved it. And Richard Donner was also the producer of that one as well. Jeez, he's all over the place.
So you worked with Kiefer twice.
Yes.
Stand By Me and Lost Boys. Talk about, did you see any difference from Stand By Me to The Lost Boys? Could you tell that he was destined to be one of the great actors?
No, but I knew that he had a pretty good shot, coming in with his dad being Donald Sutherland and all. It was a nice leg up, so to speak. But anyway, he was a very dedicated actor. He was always a very dedicated actor, very quiet, very solemn, kind of kept to himself. And I actually honestly thought he didn't like me, because we did 2 whole films together, and I don't think he ever uttered more than 10 words the entire time we were on the set. But that said, I ran into him afterwards. As a matter of fact, an interesting story, which I think I tell in my book, but I ran into Kiefer about a year ago, right? We were out one night, and we run into him. So, actually, some paparazzi guys come up to us, and they're like, hey, you gonna go say hi to Kiefer? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, oh, he's right next door. And I was like, okay. Like, no, seriously, go say hi. And I'm like, well, I'm sure the last thing he needs is, me coming up and interrupting his dinner. And they were like, no, he'd love to see you, and he was talking about you earlier, it'd be a great surprise, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay. So we walked over and we said hi, and, and he was very friendly, but the thing was that he gave me this very heartwarming and endearing story about his perception of me back in those days. And the fact that he really felt bad for me for what I was going through, because I was going through a lot of personal turmoil and turbulence while making Lost Boys. That was a very hard time. And Stand By Me, actually. That whole period, because I was emancipated at 14 years old. Well, officially at 15, but it started when I was 14. And I was 13. I was 12 turning 13 on Stand By Me, and 13 turning 14 on The Lost Boys. So all of this kind of happened between 12 and 15 years old. And so he was around, obviously, for kind of the spearhead of the end of my, love affair with my parents. Well, you're calling it a love affair just because we had a divorce. I had divorced my parents, so I guess you would call it that. But anyway, I was officially emancipated at 15 years old from my parents, which I had to take them to court and sue them and all that stuff. So Kiefer was around, and he saw all of it happening, and he knew that I was really going through a lot and that I was having a really hard time. And I guess he felt more empathy for me than I knew, because again, he was quiet and kept to himself, so I didn't know what he was thinking, but he finally conveyed it to me all these years later. And I just said, I felt so bad, and I just wish, there was more that I could have done. I wish I could have done something, and kind of really kind of ate me alive, watching and not being able to do something about it. And I was like, but that's why you made such a great vampire. So anyway, yeah, there you go. Kiefer and I are, we're kindred spirits. And his brother, by the way, Angus, is amazing. For those of you, did any of you see Lost Boys, The Tribe? The Tribe? Yeah. Well, The Tribe, for those of you who don't know and have no idea what I'm talking about, there was a sequel to Lost Boys, and it was called The Tribe. And there was another sequel to Lost Boys, and it was called The Thirst. And The Tribe actually starred Kiefer's brother as the main bad guy. So it was almost like, a real reunion, having Angus playing, the heavy. And he did such an incredible job. And the craziest thing is that him and I became really good friends and really hit it off. And I think that was kind of the first indication that Kiefer didn't hate me. Because I was like, well, I guess if, his brother likes me, then he must not have said too many bad things about me. But no, he was super nice. And I actually said, we worked together for 2 months, and we ended up becoming better friends than Kiefer and I worked together for 2 years. So, but that's just because he was very outgoing in personality, all that kind of stuff. So we got along very well.
Who were some of your influences who shaped your musical career?
Well, I like to say that I have, influences on both sides. I think we all do. As an actor, as a musician, as a director, as a producer, everything that I do, I try to obviously borrow ideas or things, from the people that I look up to. And I think that's, part of the nature of what we do. Anybody who tries to tell you as an artist that, they're completely original and it all comes from right here and, they created it all or did it all or takes all the credit or whatever, they're full of it. Because nobody does, especially not in this day and age when, we're so dependent on our predecessors. And so for me, as a musician, it's funny because most of you wouldn't expect this, but my very first band that I got into actually was from sitting around my grandmother's house, because I lived with my grandparents as a kid, and they had the old LPs, the real vinyl, and they had the old record players, and they had Bill Haley and the Comets. You guys remember Bill Haley and the Comets?
Yeah.
And you know why? Because I would watch Happy Days, and I loved the theme song for Happy Days, and I was like, wow, who does that music? That's incredible music. And when I found out that it was actually a band from the 50s and that it wasn't original music written for the show, I was so impressed. And then I saw my grandmother actually had the album, Bill Haley and the Comets' Greatest Hits. And I started listening to See You Later Alligator and Rock Around the Clock and all those old songs. So I got into that first. That was my very first kind of music that I got into on my own. Second, don't laugh, Sean Cassidy. Wow, look at that. You guys remember, very nice. Sean Cassidy, like the perfect like teen dream, heartthrob dude, And so I think maybe that was like a little bit of like the pop side. I think might have kind of creeped its way in with the whole image and knowing how to like kind of cater to the fans and all that stuff. I think really derived from that. Then I kind of evolved a little bit more, and the theatrical side of it all came from, and this is the real mind blower, Kiss. Kiss, yes. Which is, funny because nowadays I really can't stand their music, but still the image, what they created, the theatrical presentation, they're so good, with the costumes and the makeup and the special effects and just, they know how to put on a great show. They really do. They're amazing at it. They're showmen, So anyway, Kiss was really one of the first ones. And I remember when I was a little kid, I used to get together with my friends in my grandmother's house, and we'd get like pots and pans and, whatever was laying around the house, and we'd make fake instruments, and we would put together a little, kind of like talent shows for all the kids in the neighborhood. And we'd set it up on my grandmother's front lawn, and we'd all get out there and we'd play our pots and pans and pretend we were in Kiss. And then shortly after that, the way that my music developed was I started writing. And the way I started writing, and this is even weirder, was really weird. I started listening to Weird Al Yankovic. Go figure, right? Who ever says that their musical inspiration was Weird Al Yankovic? But truthfully, and only as a writer, but as a writer, that's how I developed my skills and learned how to write, was because I wanted to find out what people were talking about in the music. So I'm trying to listen to like Kiss's lyrics or, Michael Jackson or people that I started getting into at that time, and I could never decipher, especially with Michael, I never knew what the hell he was talking about. So I was like, okay, I better write this down. So I started like really trying to write it down and figure out that like I wanted to try and write parodies like Weird Al did, because if I could learn how many words were in each sentence and what the structure was and verse and a chorus and all that stuff, then I could write a parody too. So because of Weird Al, that's what influenced me to sit down and actually start listening to the words and trying to transpose them and make them make sense musically. So I did that. I wrote a couple parodies because of my influence of Weird Al. And then once I realized the structure of a song and how to write, then I started writing my own original songs. Then as far as my actual inspiration to what my sound was going to be or what I wanted to put forward, Michael, of course, was heavily an influence on me. The Beatles, Paul McCartney specifically, John Lennon specifically, Pink Floyd, The Who, a lot of the British stuff. I was always a big fan of the British invasion. And, really not so much 80s music, but I really like the 60s and 70s. Like, I feel like that was my heart and soul, even though I was not born or alive for it, but that's what I always liked the best.
So one final question from us before we take a few from the audience. After all the years in the entertainment industry, which can usually not be so kind, what is one of the most important things that you've learned?
Hold on. No, I'm just joking. I was trying to think of it. It's got to be important. Okay. No. For me, it's all about perseverance. Perseverance. Never giving up. That is the key. Okay? Well, number one, you got to always be good to your fans. So remember that. If you plan on being famous, okay, make sure that you are good to your fans, because those are the people that make you who you are. Okay? Forget everybody else. Forget the media. Forget all the other stuff. Forget trying to impress everybody in Hollywood. Because at the end of the day, trust me, Hollywood tried to bury me. Okay? They wanted to sweep me under the carpet. I would have been gone and dead as far as the eyes of Hollywood if it wasn't for you people. Okay? But because of you people who are filling this room today, or another sold-out panel, you are the people that I'm here for, and you are the reason why I'm here today, because of my love for you and because of your love for me. So it is reciprocal, and for me, that is what I honor and value the most. I appreciate that. But there are a lot of people out there who get caught up in their ego. They think it's all about them. They forget about the fans. And those are the ones who, when Hollywood tries to stomp them down, they succeed. Because the fans are kind of like, yeah, well, you know what, he was a jerk when I met him, or, you know, he told me to screw myself, or, you know, didn't answer my fan letter, or whatever it is, you know, and I think that because of the fact that I've always had this beautiful relationship with the fans, that's why they've always supported me, and that's why they've always kept me alive. And if it wasn't for them, my career would be done. So that's number one. And number two is that I have to tell you that, you know, whether it's you want to be an actor, or a writer, or a producer, you want to do anything in this business at all, or whatever your dreams may be, I can tell you that the most important value that we have on this earth as a human being is the power of belief. The power of belief is the greatest tool that we have, because you can visualize and believe in whatever you want, and as long as you are committed to that belief, as long as you truly, truly value whatever it is that you are wanting, that you want to make your reality, as long as you can really own it and visualize it and see it, you can make it happen. That's the bottom line. No matter how far-fetched it is, no matter how out there it is, you think, you know, oh my God, I'd love to see myself on the big screen one day, but that'll never happen. Well, if you say that'll never happen, it'll never happen. But if you put it in your mind, this is the way it's going to be, I refuse to accept any other answer. It's going to happen. And when you believe it, beyond a shadow of a doubt, no matter what it is, you can make that reality. It's up to you. So just always remember that. No matter what your dreams are, don't give up on those dreams. If you want them bad enough, it will happen. And you just have to know that in your heart. Okay.
The gentleman back there, right there, lady, there you go.
What is your most favorite and least favorite Corey's movie?
Thanks. Well, this will surprise you too, probably, but I would say Blown Away is my favorite. Just because it was such a different turn for us. It was such a challenge. It was like, you know, are people going to accept us as adults? You know, this was our first time going out as adults, and we were trying to be, you know, sexy and debonair, and, you know, manly and stuff. And we'd been kids, you know, before that. So everybody kind of thought of us as kids and teenagers and the whole teen dream thing, you know, and it was like, it was nice to finally evolve as, you know, mature actors and get to play grown-up roles and hoping that people would kind of jump on, and they did. So I'd say creatively, that was the most fun for me, and fun for me to watch. You know, I always like to watch Corey in that movie and go, God, you were so great. I love watching you be serious. So great to watch you focused, you know, because that rarely happened. And then worst would definitely, without a doubt, be National Lampoon's Last Resort. What a stinker. That movie was just awful. It was just awful. Seriously, it was bad. So, you know what I'm talking about? You guys seen it? Yeah, boo! Yeah, anyway. Oh, yeah, that's okay.
Hey, I was just wondering if you had any funny stories about working on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles since you were Donatello.
I have a really funny story about the way the mic was angled during the session. It was crazy. You wouldn't believe it. No, I'm joking. There was no stories. I wasn't on the set. I never walked on the set day one. Yeah, nothing. Sorry. I stood behind a mic. I walked into the studio. It was just me and a piece of paper and somebody talking into my headset. And I'm like, okay, go ahead, and now put the voice in there. Okay, great. Wait for the 3 beeps, and go. And all right. Thank you very much. That was fun. See you later. Sorry.
I got better for you. Of the singing, sorry, I'll come up later.
Where are you? It's God. God. I'm sorry. Oh, there you go. It's Elvis. Jesus. Wait, it's Elvis, Jesus, God.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you very much. All right.
Of everything you've done, what?
Yeah, baby. Sorry. No, you go ahead.
That's
Go right ahead. Come on.
We make good music. What do you want your legacy to be?
That belt. I want that belt to be all over my legacy. I don't mean that in some weird sexual way now. Come on. Don't get it twisted, bro. Alright, we're men. We're men. We can wear bling and still be men. You tell them. You tell them.
Right. Don't ever forget that. All bling. All bling.
That's right.
He's got bling on him. That shirt's very blingy.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you.
It's actually a jacket. Okay, go ahead. What was the question? I got distracted. I don't know why.
Oh, you've done some amazing movies.
Okay.
And now you're doing some great music. So what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, just that I hopefully entertain millions, which I think I might have one way or another, whether they were laughing with me or, but anyway. But more importantly than entertainment, that hopefully I inspired people to be the best that they can be and do something positive with their lives, because anybody can just do the work. That's the easy part, right? We all get paid, we do our jobs, we do the work, but I like to believe that my career and my legacy extend to beyond that and is more of like an outreach to the fans, because I think what maybe defines me from, your average actor or musician is the fact that I make it very personal. And I come out here and I talk to you people and I get to know you people and you get to know me. I hear countless times on Twitter you're the only actor or musician that I've ever reached out to that actually responds or actually talks to me or gets to know me or knows my name or whatever. Because I realize that we're all human beings, we're all in it together. And we're all very similar. We all sweat, we all cry, we all laugh, we all have our ups, we have our downs. But at the end of the day, we're all human, and we all share the same emotions. And although we may vary in shape and size and whatever else, at the end of the day, we all go to bed with the same, dreams and the same questions and the same wishes and, aspirations. And I believe that we can form a bond, we can form together, and we can work together and improve not only ourselves, but hopefully the world around us. So hopefully I've made some kind of a dent in the progress of moving forward as a race.
All right, one more question.
Hi, Corey.
Hi.
Is there any actor or actress you have not worked with yet that would just be your dream job?
Oh my God, so many. Yeah. No, for real. I wish. I mean, Jack Nicholson, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Christopher Walken would be nice. So many. I feel like I've basically just hit the tip of the iceberg. There's so much I need to do still. I'm nowhere near done, if that's what anybody was thinking. Not even close. We've got a lot more movies to make, a lot more albums to make, a lot more touring to do. I'm just getting started. Really, I feel that way.
Well, Corey, thank you.